Good evening, everybody. Hope all of you are having a good start to the week. And for today, we're going to be covering lightweight modifications, as we've done a few on the M235i. Hopefully, some of the things that we've done already and over time, we'll see if they're actually worth the money or if some other modifications that we plan to do down the road are even worth it. Because when it comes to weight savings, it does really boil down to, is it worth it? Because generally speaking, the modifications when it comes to making the car lighter, faster, more nimble, come at that premium price point. But it doesn't always need to be at a premium price point. Sometimes there are cheaper options, better options, sometimes even free options that we'll touch into as we go through everything today. And price is going to be one of the biggest components, whether it be that you have to spend a lot of money for these weight saving modifications, or if you're trying to save money by reducing as much weight as you can on the car. Maybe you daily the car, something like that, and perhaps a certain part is due for replacement, and maybe you catch it on sale or it's a scratch and dent item, and you're trying to figure out, should you go with the OEM part for its fit and finish and its general reliability, or should you go with an aftermarket part that might cost a little bit more, but down the road, it'll save you money? Hopefully, we'll be able to answer that question today. And one of the biggest main misconceptions, I would say, when it comes to this topic is sprung versus unsprung weight. Now, generally speaking, the unsprung weight is anything below your suspension, so your coilovers in this case. Anything below this point is going to be your unsprung rate. And then anything above the suspension, anything that's supported by the spring, that will be your sprung weight. And generally speaking, it is better to reduce your unsprung weight versus sprung weight. But it's typically easier to reduce unsprung weight versus sprung weight. And one of the more common ways to reduce weight right away that people go for, whether it be aesthetics or they're actually trying to save weight, is with their wheels. Now, oftentimes wheels are an aesthetic modification and people are trying to enhance the looks of their car. And when it comes to this, I would say if you plan to keep your car for a long time, then you can justify that. Yes, over time, it'll save you money. If you go to a square setup versus the factory staggered setup, this is also a better option going aftermarket, because although the OEM wheels, yes, they're free and technically they're easier to align, because if you take it to a BMW shop or even a specialty shop, if you see these little holes here that are next to the lug holes, those are meant for the alignment tool to insert, and then they can better align the car versus having to clamp it onto the wheel. So it serves two purposes. One is to easier align the wheels, and two, it's that they don't have to put those hooks, although they are rubberized, they don't have to put the hooks on the outer portion of your tire. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of you're not going to have visible damage or visible wear when they do the alignment, because depending on the tech, maybe they're having a good day, a bad day, maybe they're really busy, maybe they're not as busy. Generally speaking, the OEM wheels, they're easier to align, and when they do get aligned, they're less likely to have visible damage. Versus aftermarket wheels, generally speaking, if you're sticking in the same size range, you can save 5 to 10 pounds per wheel, more if you jump up to that higher price point. And generally speaking, they are easier to clean. Just looking at these two wheels, it's a no-brainer that this one's going to be much easier to clean. There's less surface area overall. Here you have to work through all the little nooks and crannies, and sometimes you can't even get a hand or a brush in there, and it'll be very difficult to clean. So I even would say aftermarket wheels are the way to go, just because it makes more sense if you keep your car long term. But also, there's no harm in buying aftermarket wheels and keeping your OEM wheels. Run the aftermarket wheels, and when you sell your car, you could keep your aftermarket wheels, especially if you get something like BBS wheels that are very expensive And if you get something like that, I would definitely recommend keeping your OEM wheels in case you plan to sell your car. That way you sell it with the OEM wheels and you keep the better wheel around with you. And you can have that weight savings across several different cars. And this is more important if you track your car. This is where we get into the unsprung weight. So here, you're definitely going to be saving a lot of weight. And people will say that unsprung weight is more important because it means more. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's equivalent to like 15 pounds of unsprung weight means 1 pound of sprung weight. It's nothing dramatic like that. But if you just take into account, this is the actual moving part of the car. So when the car is moving, if this component is lighter, when it's moving the car, it's going to be able to accelerate faster. It's going to be able to move faster, haul faster, everything. And you're also going to have less wear and tear on your tires because your tires are directly connected to this. And the weight distribution of the wheel matters as well. Generally speaking, we want most of the weight of the wheel in the center and then lighter as we move out. Think about it, if you're holding a 10-pound weight, it's easy to hold it right here versus holding it like really far out. And the same concept applies to wheels. I believe back at my former job, they were saying something like a 10-pound weight at your center mass is 10 times or feels about 10 times lighter, at least the strain on the force, versus having it all the way extended. Of course, that's going to depend on how tall you are and things like that, but I even think that's an over-exaggeration, but that's just what they said at my old job. And moving on to the component that's directly tied to your wheels is going to be your tires. Tires, I would say it depends really on the component. OEM, generally, yes, you are going to get longer life because more and more OEM manufacturers are using run flat tires, but they're awful. And to a certain extent, they are cheaper because they don't have to use the more premium compounds, but you are sacrificing on the aftermarket side better performance, better comfort, and you can get pretty good longevity out of aftermarket tires as well. Now, because you are generally using a softer compound, a performance enhancing compound, they don't run as thick, so they can be lighter, the tires. And this is all going to depend on, are you going to a smaller wheel setup, the same wheel setup, and the tires, there's a range of tires that can fit on those wheels. Are you sticking to the same size and width of your original tires? That's all going to matter. But for today's purposes, we're just going to assume that everything is going to be generally equal, or you're going to a square setup. So in my case on the M235i, I believe they're a 7.5 in the front and an 8.5 in the back. And I just went 8.5 all the way around to make it a square setup. In that case, I'm saving money with the tire rotations. The tires are going to last me longer, and I'm going to get more even wear throughout the tire's life. And so that'll help out with the performance aspect things as well. So I would say tire weight is nice if you can save it, but I would say the better thing is you want better performance and you want better comfort. And this is a replaceable item as time goes on. So it wouldn't hurt if you wanted to experiment with something like the 4S's, which what we have here on example, and then the one with the blue stripe, that's going to be the all season 4s. If you're somebody who had run flats on your BMW before, and now that we're coming out of the winter season, if you're somebody who typically runs the 4S's and you're due for a tire change, I would recommend giving the 4S's a try. In my experience, I've only slipped once in a really, I guess, gravel-ridden area where I live. Other than that, I've had no experiences slipping, and I even went down in width. So I went from a 245 to a 225 just to see what I could get away with. And so I slipped a little bit. So I think a 235 with the 4S's would probably be the sweet spot. But I think the all-season tires, at least for Michelin, is the nice middle ground versus a high performance summer tire and a run flat, because it gives you the longevity. I think these are rated maybe 40 or 60,000 miles. They're comfortable. They grip well in the wet and the dry. So this is a very well designed all season tire, which I normally steer away from for a summer tire, which is going to give you just as much good dry traction as wet traction. Usually it depends on the temperature. But here in California, that's something that we can say generally, that a summer tire is a good all year round tire for people in California or somebody who never experiences snow or the extreme cold. So in my experience, at least with the tire setup, even with the wider 4Ss, the 4S weighs less than the all season 4. But for most people, I would say that yes, although you are picking up a little bit weight, I would still recommend the all season 4s over the 4Ss for most people who are budget conscious. And our next weight savings modification is the anti-gravity battery, or lithium batteries in general. You could even go with a lightweight AGM battery. But this is just the one that I can speak to because I just recently installed it on the M235i. And it is like 3 times more expensive. It does weigh considerably less, almost 40 pounds. It's smaller, and so it's going to take up less weight. Its distribution is going to be tighter, all of it being in the back, and it has a better power output. And if you plan to keep your car for a while, you can justify the price point because of the amount of time that it's expected to last, which is 2 to 3 times longer than an OEM battery. And I did a little bit more research. 3 to 4 years warranty on an OEM, that's actually incorrect. So it's actually 3 to 4 years of an AGM equivalent. So like an Optima battery is 3 to 4 years. The actual OEM battery is about 2 years, and the anti-gravity is 5 years prorated. So if you plan to keep your car for a long time, you can justify this expense, especially if you don't code the battery yourself. Somebody from Colorado messaged me their invoice for the battery replacement at the dealership. The battery was like $275 on their sheet. And then to code the battery was just as much. So this battery now jumps up to $500. And so if you have to do this twice, you're already here at the anti-gravity price. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you still have this coded at the BMW shop. You buy this, you put it in, and maybe they code it, or you get somebody who even charges as much as the dealership. So let's say you're at about $1,300 versus $1,000. One, you're going to save money because you are lugging around less weight, but also you don't have to code it twice. And so your time is also worth value. Plus, by the time your old battery is up, inflation has already kicked in. We're already experiencing it. And so that $275, it's going to go up the next time you go for another battery exchange, versus the $950, you've already paid it. It's done and over with. So your $1,300 is static. This, it could jump up a few bucks, 20, 50 bucks, something like that. And so this is one way that you can definitely save weight. And if you don't code it yourself, I would say it's a no-brainer to go with a lighter weight battery. If you don't want to go with a lithium battery, maybe you live in an extreme cold environment, you go with a lightweight AGM, and it's actually going to be a little bit cheaper as well. Maybe in the $600 to $700 range. And in that case, it's definitely worth it going versus OEM. Whether you code it yourself or not, it's a steal at that point versus the two. And next up here, we have our panels. And here's where I would say that the material matters to an extent. Carbon fiber is generally the go-to when it comes to aftermarket panels like trunks, hoods, fenders, bumpers, things like that. I would say if you're replacing plastic or like that kind of plasticky fiberglass material, when it comes to a bumper, you're not saving that much more weight. And if you want to really save weight and have it matter, the hood is probably where it's going to mean the most, as well as the trunk. However, in my experience, the hood will save you about 20 pounds if you go to aluminum, and I think maybe about 25 pounds if you go carbon fiber. So you're only saving 5 pounds, but you're paying about 3 times as much. The trunk, I haven't seen an aluminum version, but generally you're only losing 10 pounds there. And these parts, depending on where you get them from and the material that you use, can cost about the same. So if you were to do one, I would say like the hood is where you're going to get the most weight savings. And then if you do something like the anti-gravity battery, that's going to save you about 40 pounds, and you drop 20 pounds in the front, then that weight distribution becomes a little bit more balanced out. You're not dropping 40 completely from the back. It's more like 20. And then we all know that for people who daily their car, you're probably putting your luggage, your backpacks, your work bags, whatever it is, groceries, you're putting those things in the trunk. And then that right there will give you a better weight distribution. It's not that hard to imagine putting 20 pounds of whatever in your trunk to balance out the difference in weight. And for the most part, I would say as a daily driver, most people aren't really pushing their car to the limit to experience the shift in weight distribution. So it's not that big of an issue. But if you do track your car, then I would say try your best to balance out the weight depending on how your car is situated. But we don't have to always go carbon anymore. Aluminum is a very viable option, especially at its price point. In a weird way, I would say that weight savings can save you money if you plan to do other modifications. So one of the main reasons why I started jumping into lightweight modifications is because when I did the coilovers on the M235i, I had a bunch of clearance issues with the speed bumps that are around my workplace as well as that are around my home. And so I had to drop weight specifically from the front. The rear was fine. And so that's when I did the hood. That dropped me about 20 pounds. And that's when I changed out the VRSF intercooler for a Wagner one. And that saved me about 9 pounds. So about 30 pounds from the front. That gave it just enough rise to clear those speed bumps. And I cruise pretty easily now in those areas. But when it comes to saving money and is it worth it, I would say aluminum is pretty much worth it now. The hood, I think, is about $1,000, I would say, versus a carbon fiber one is $3,000. That's a little bit harder of a bullet to bite. However, if you can find a used one, that's always a good way to go. And I'm just not aware if they make any carbon trunks. And 10 pound savings on the trunk, I would say, is not really worth it. Unless you have the disposable income, and unless something like maybe you pick this up for like $1,000, I think that's about how much they're going for, maybe $2,000. And then if you can sell your trunk for $5,000 to offset some of the costs, it's just going to be really hard to justify 10 pounds of weight savings to say that it's worth it. Unless, of course, you really love the aesthetics of it and you track your car and you're trying to save as much weight as possible. It's going to be really hard for you to make up 10 pounds of weight savings when you start rolling into the thousands of dollars. If it's not necessarily a clearance issue where you're damaging components of your car, it's really hard to justify these big panels like this. But ultimately, I would say another thing to consider is a rear seat delete. There are the premium options that we have over here, and that's going to be like the carbon fiber custom cutout molds for your rear seat to look almost like there's something there. And then you also have a panel down here. These are in the thousands of dollars, and I would say these are very hard to justify unless you have that disposable income. But for somebody who's budget conscious, my recommendation would be just pull out your rear seats, and if you can make something like a little netting over here. And it doesn't have to be a net per se. It could just be like a sheet, whatever it is. If you want to drop weight with a rear seat delete, you don't necessarily have to cover it up. Covering it up is more for the isolation for the NVH. But if it's just you in the car and you don't mind that, you could just run this open all the time and it's not going to cause any issues. There is a company who makes the netting, as well as like a carpet that runs all the way through, just so that you have something here. If you put something in the trunk, it doesn't slide all the way. I would say like that's a good thing to look into. Possibly even if you could get like a rubber mat, that would be nice so that it grips a little bit better. And the netting is just to catch anything, like the big items from slamming into you while you're driving. But I would say like this mod can be worth it if you do it yourself. Pulling out the seats is free, and then netting is probably like maybe like 20 to 50 bucks depending on how fancy you want to get. And then if you buy the carpet yourself and cut it up yourself, that again is also probably that whole setup. Maybe it costs you 100, 150. Like if you want to get really fancy with it, like you could cheap out on it and probably get it for less than 100. But if you want to go with somebody who actually custom tailors it, gives you all the nuts and bolts and everything, I think this setup can run about $500. This one I think is in the threes. So this I would say is if you show off your car, if you track your car and you need that complete isolation, if you have the disposable income, yes. But I wouldn't say that it's worth it. Like you get your money back, like you get a good return of investment back. But for somebody who's budget conscious, this is a good option as well. But ultimately, the best thing to do when it comes to like rear seat delete or anything is if your trunk isn't empty, like if you have stuff that's just sitting here, and I'm not talking about like your work bag, your school bag, anything like that that comes in and out. Like if you have something that lives in your trunk, albeit with the exception of maybe like an emergency tool set, a plug kit, something like that for like an emergency. If you just have random accessories or junk in here, clean that out first. That's going to be the best weight savings mod that you can do, hands down. It's free. You will get all the benefits of your car performing at a lighter weight. You'll save on gas. All those things are encompassed with this, just pulling out unused weight. And this even goes to things like the glove box, the armrest, and just the interior of your car, door cards even. If you have things that are in your car that don't need to be there, take them out. You don't need them. They're making your car look junky and they're weighing down your car. And effectively, it's also costing you money to have those things in there because you have to spend more on gas. Now, the whole weight savings when it comes to gas is arguable because generally speaking, you're not saving that much when you pull out this weight. But if you have weight that you could easily pull out, then of course it's going to be better. And it's just going to be something that compounds over time. So I wouldn't say something like a rear seat delete, which is probably about 50 pounds, hoods 20, carbon trunks that are 10. None of these things are going to like get you an extra 5 miles per gallon. Even going to a 40-pound difference almost in the battery, still not. Let's see what else we have. Tires, I would still say no, not that much. Maybe one. If you size down with your tires and wheels and you properly inflate your tires all the time, then yes, of course, especially if you live in adverse conditions where you really need the tire to grip. Having the tire grip properly, not spin, is going to help you not waste gas having to spin in place. So this can, to an extent, but it's not going to be like 5 or 10 miles per gallon more. Nothing that we do, even if you strip out the car, because ultimately most of the fuel economy is dictated by the engine of the car and how you drive. These weight savings things are nice. Just don't expect them to change the world for you. If you do something for yourself, like a rear seat delete that you make yourself, that is worth it. Spending $3,000, you're not really going to get your return of investment. This thing will definitely give you a return of investment because it's free. And so one of the things that actually, if we jump over to our Q&A section right now, one of the things that Car Snob has brought up, we'll open it up for Q&A now, is he took off his muffler and weight savings right there. And that's absolutely true. It's probably going to save you about 20 to 30 pounds, I think. But one of the things that I just haven't been able to justify from a cost perspective. Of course, I know that it would get like views and things like that, and some people would want to know, but I feel like an exhaust is very straightforward. So let's see here. I've been looking at the AWE exhaust for a while. I just, in all honesty, can't justify the price point for it. So here we are. And so here we're looking at, I guess if I just edit the options, touring option, finish, diamond black, whatever. Okay, so they're not, oh, here it is. So it's about $1,300. You roll it up with tax and everything like that, we're talking about 15. I would say it's hard to justify that because one, we're not saving that much more weight anymore when it comes to exhaust. Exhaust nowadays, they're not saving you 20 to 40 pounds anymore. They're almost as heavy as OEM. And unless you're getting like a delete, as our friend over here, Car Snob, did, then you're not saving weight. You're just getting slightly better sound performance. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But if you're doing this in the hopes of, yes, I'm going to get better performance, you might, because of the design of the exhaust, how it scavenges gas better, potentially. But ultimately, you're just paying for a better sounding exhaust system. And it can look better aesthetically, but how many of you are actually getting down that low? And generally speaking, most people who are doing an exhaust setup probably did something like coilovers or lowering springs, and this is really all that you're seeing. You're not seeing much. The OEM muffler is pretty tucked underneath there, so you don't really see anything, so it doesn't give you anything bulky really to look at. Now, the M cars, their system is kind of bulky, and having it tucked away is better. But underneath, you know, if you want to say, oh, it's lightweight, it's aerodynamic, like all of that stuff is fine, but not really, because you have this buffeting area up here that the air is going to go up in, because that's where the old muffler was kind of stored. So you're kind of fooling yourself if you're saying like it's more aerodynamic, it's lighter weight. It's just, for most modern cars, unless you're going to titanium, which is, you're not really going to get a good return of your investment. Exhaust nowadays, not really where I would say the weight savings are worth it. If you want the sound, if you want slightly better performance, yes, you will get that. Just, you know, just because for today's topic, it's, you know, weight savings modifications, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Mufflers really aren't where you'll find that. So let's see here. Let's see what other questions we have up for today. Defect. Hey Fritz, I installed the Kosan screen after asking you about it last week. Your videos really helped me with the install, so thank you so much. Oh, perfect. Glad it's still relatable. I know that that's an older model that I have, so I'm glad that with their newer model, it's still, you know, the information for that video is still helpful. And I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. I still say like it's one of like the best mods that I've ever done. It's one of the mods that I'm just so grateful for. It's nothing like the suspension. It's nothing like the coilovers where like you take a turn really hard and, you know, it feels so planted and good and it like puts a smile on your face. It's just like, okay, I need to enter in an address because of where I'm going. And it's like, oh, wow. Like having the bigger screen there is pleasant. It's when you're maybe trying to pick through a song and the text is bigger. It's nice. So it's it's something that if you had the smaller screen, you'll never want to go back to. So I'm happy that you have it in, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Soul Slinger, how's it going? Hope you had a good week. Glad to see you here today. You can't find a muffler kit for your Ethernet. Let's see what we can do here for you. All right. So we have a few options here from like Super Sprint. I think BMW is the one who makes it. Oh, Corsa. You know what? When I had my E36, I was shopping around for an exhaust, and I would say that I almost got an exhaust before my car broke down. So I obviously didn't get it. Corsa, if I'm not mistaken, will save you quite a bit of weight, and in my opinion, sounds the best. So let's see here. 16 pounds lighter. Okay, so this one is for you specifically. This is just based off of my taste, my preferences. I love the Corsa exhaust. So if this isn't too much out of your budget, I would say you could go with this. You could always straight pipe it too. Like if you wanted to save as much weight as possible, like that's one way to go. But as far as the one that I would pick, if I were to do an exhaust, honestly, it's not going to be for any weight savings. Like the weight savings are nice. It's the sound and the performance. To me, the Corsa is the best option for like that E36, E39, but it'll depend on your taste. Defect. Any options on the Mad Trace magnetic paddle shifters? Thinking about installing it on the M235i. I actually have a manual transmission, so I don't have any experiences with those. But if I'm not mistaken, Auto Technic makes them. And at SV Bimmer, we actually installed them not too long ago. So let me see if I can pull that up here. Okay, so here we go. So this is the one that we installed. I believe these are the magnetic ones. If these are not, these are, they do make them for the magnetic version. So these actually feel pretty good in the hand. I think they make a dry carbon and a gloss carbon version. So I will put this in the comment for you. And I think all the details as far as like the links and everything, all that's down there. So if you end up checking it out in the video and you like it, the link should be in that video. But I can't speak to anything else personally. Actually, I think my friend who has a G80 might have just installed it. I think he also works at the shop. I can get back to you on that. Soul Slinger. I chopped the 2 massive cans off the back and made it straight pipe. Yeah, that's going to be the best weight savings, possibly the best performance that you could get out of it. And as long as you can get away with it in terms of like police and sound and all those things like that, and the neighbors don't care, why not? Car Snob, you literally took your, okay, so this is you replacing the muffler. And you're saying that you took it from a BRZ and put it in. So then just the muffler section was able to fit into that portion of that little cavity there. So that's interesting. mean, if you have an Instagram, feel free to, if you have an Instagram with a video and you're willing to let people listen to it and take a look at it, feel free to share. I'm actually really interested in that. So if you don't, please post it. That'd be my request from today. Soul Slinger, going pretty so far. So this is in reference to your straight pipe. I'd imagine so. I mean, NA cars sound good overall. And that generation of BMW, if you take off the muffling system, it sounds good. So I'm not surprised at all. If I were you, I would, and I can get away with it, I'd probably still straight pipe it too. But in California, I can't really get away with anything like that. My friends, if you look them up, they're E92. Let me see. I feel bad for them because they got state refed like a few times. Okay, so this is actually a buddy of mine. I think this is his, maybe this is his personal page, because him and I think it's his wife, they have a page together. Maybe it's one of these ones. But so they're E92. He was up on WeekFest as well, and here in San Jose. And okay, so this is the account that I'm more familiar with. Has 10.7 thousand. Yeah, so this is their car. I think they have two of them. I'm not sure which one, but they got state ref twice. They posted like in one of the stories a while back of like how the cop was actually trying to take reference of the sound, and it was bogus. But again, of course, us car people, we're going to say it's bogus. And I mean, to a certain extent, I feel like there's too much regulation in California. Like some things are nice, but it's like there's a point of overdoing it. Like, okay, I get it, the exhaust. If you really want to, if you want to be really nitpicky, but I would say like it's hard to tell how loud an exhaust is on the freeway. Like, unless they're passing you up, you're not really going to hear it. Other things are like, on the engine bay. So like charge pipes and boost pipes, generally speaking, they're support pieces. They're additional support pieces for potential power. They don't necessarily change the chemistry or change the performance of your car. They're just replacing out that plastic piece. And I'm having a hard time smogging my dad's car because we did the VRSF charge pipe and we did the MST boost pipe. And the smog personalization is saying, oh, you need a CARB sticker. You need CARB certification to have these modifications on there. Otherwise, you can't pass smog. So I do believe these regulations do take it too far. And I think they're just an excuse for the state to get extra money, because the aftermarket car manufacturer has to apply for that certification. And then us, as the owner of said car, have to pay for smog. It's like, just kind of, I feel like there's just too much regulation. Car Week in Monterey, I think, is heavily overregulated. It's like that event brings in a lot of revenue for the city and the county, and the cops have to check everybody who goes there. Of course, you don't want anybody acting irresponsibly, but to stop people and find people at an event that's already bringing you a lot of money, to me, that's an insult. You just shouldn't do this. It's like bad business. Because if another venue opened up, if another city was willing to welcome them and then told, like the police, hey, why don't you just be a little bit more relaxed? Stop people who are acting irresponsibly, give a few more warnings out, and then the people who are acting very irresponsibly or acting very rudely disrespectful, yes, those people get the tickets. But yeah, so I hope you can get away with your muffler delete as long as you can, and hopefully you never have to change it to anything else if that's your preference. Okay, Soul Slinger. Let's see if we can. Oh no, that's the end of it. I'll look into it as far as the Corsa exhaust. He'll look into it, and had to get the cans off just because they're ridiculous. If I can bolt the Corsa on, I'll get them. I believe they are bolt on. It is pricey. I would say look up a few videos on YouTube to see if you actually like the sound. You might not. I would say the OEM sound versus the Corsa wins out, no questions asked. But since you have the delete, you might not think that way anymore. So if you do, let me know. Tag me on something on Instagram, TikTok at VroomTuber. I'd love to see your setup, and I'd love to hear your exhaust, more importantly. Car Snob. Wow, your BMW Jack Points video, third highest. I need to do a lot of search-based high-demand vids. Yeah, that one was a while ago. I'm actually surprised that it's still holding weight, just because, you know, as time goes on, people get better. There are better tools and things like that available. Those were not like the prettiest jack stands, and I used hockey pucks. I didn't even use the proper adapter. So I'm surprised it didn't get ratioed all the way down. But I guess it's doing its job. Yeah, search base, it's people say search is dead as far as content creation, but when it comes to us car enthusiasts, I would say you need to rely on search as far as growth, because especially for people with newer cars. So if you have like a G chassis car, the people who have those cars now, they're not doing DIYs. Those are people who have the disposable income to take it to a shop, and the shop is going to do it. I will say though, just from my experience going into shops, a lot of times when you take an aftermarket part that requires some sort of fabrication that's not necessarily perfect, a retrofit even, a lot of shops will actually look up YouTube videos. And so if you create search-based content now on that chassis, shops are going to use that. So you might not get a lot of search, but then when that car ages and becomes more affordable, the people who are willing to work on the cars, they're going to be watching your videos down the line. So I would say if it doesn't boom now, it could boom later. There are a lot of videos that I have that only recently started to get traction. Plus, it's like once you get popular, people will check through your previous library to see what else you can do, because they've already liked your presentation. They like your camera's point of view on what it is that you're working on. So give it some time. Car Snob again. Yeah, I just literally took it off a few months ago, but I barely recorded me doing it. I could have made it a whole, oh, sorry. I barely recorded it, recorded yourself doing it, and you could have made a whole vlog. I'm sorry. You could have made a whole vlog video out of it, but had not gotten my Sony DSLR yet, and my camera anxiety. So it's fine. Honestly, if you're shy right now, if you look at the meat and potatoes of my videos, I've actually pulled back a lot. I don't like talking to the camera as I'm doing the work. I just like to sit on a tripod, record, and then voice over afterwards. This really takes that whole camera anxiety out of it, because the camera's not on you. The camera is, at most, it's like on your hand, maybe you're up to your elbow, depending on the angle that you can get. And then it's just you working. The only thing that I would suggest is make sure that you get it at an angle and you position your hand so that people can see what you're doing. And I would say vlogging, when it comes to cars, I wouldn't say that it's not of value, but unless you have a team, like if you look at Keys Motorsports, that's technically a vlog because he's doing it live, but he's got a whole separate camera person to do it, because when you work on your car, you have oil, you have dirt, you have grit. You don't want that on your camera, because that costs a lot of money. And just recording it and then doing a voiceover afterwards is, I think, better. It saves you time. It also saves you space on your memory card. And you also get the nice sound of you working on the car, and then you just voice over it. Your speech impediment is going to be more calculated. It's going to be more thorough. It's going to be more precise. You can script it out. You can plan it out. You don't have to think about it on the spot. If you can tell that when I'm talking here on lives, although I am getting a little bit more comfortable, my speech pattern is not as precise as my voiceovers, and that's because I script them. So if you're having some anxiety, I would say that would help you out a little bit. And you don't have to do the intros, even like with you facing the camera. You could do it with just like B-roll in the background. If you look at I believe it's the GTS hood, that intro, I wasn't in the camera, and preferably I would not want to be in the camera because it saves time of just doing B-roll and a voiceover afterwards. So I hope that helps you out. Soul Slinger. Oh, where did that go? I'm in Washington State, out in the sticks. We don't have emissions or noise ordinance. Really? I would think, well, for me, for my like 9-to-5 job, I do personal finance, so financial consulting. And Washington's regulations are a little bit more strict when it comes to at least finance things. They've actually rolled out a few policies and plans that we will probably start implementing here in California. And so generally, I thought that would be more across the board because I thought California would be the most strict state. But when I found out some of the financial things that Washington is making people do, some of those laws, I was like, oh, their car rules and regulations are probably more strict as well. But I'm actually happy to hear that. So, and you're out, like you said, you're out in the sticks, so you don't have neighbors really to complain on you. So that's also a good thing. Defect. Just looked up those Auto Technica ones. I don't think they make magnetic ones for the F22 M235. I see only the completion shift paddles. Mad Trace magnetic paddles are the only ones I think. Okay. Could be the case. If I'm not, yeah, you might want to, and I know that he usually uses what's considered a cheaper brand, but he has a pretty good reputation. You might want to look up Mishimaru. Let me see if I can find him here. Or Mashimaru. Is that it? Here we go. Okay, and there's his website right there. Okay, here we go. Magnetic paddle shifters. Let's see if we have anything up here. F-Series. Huh, it seems like the F-Series are all the same, and I think these are like longer variants and shorter variants, depending on what you want. So I would say you could give this a shot. Oh, those are the ones that you're talking about. Mad Trace right there. Sorry, my mistake. I can ask around for you if you want. I see that is a pretty penny to buy, but that's because they're kind of like the in thing right now. They're really popular. So if you don't need it right now and you're willing to let the trend kind of pass by, I could see this dropping down by like $50 to $100. Of course, it's all going to depend on what how much it costs to actually make this, but I could see it going down to about that once the trend passes. If you look at, let's see here, F30 GTS. And plus to the technology, more people start to copy it. So yeah, see like 300, and yes, you can say that this is from a cheaper brand, but before they were all like 1,000. These were really expensive when they first came out. And of course, like these are like the gimmicky, like eBay, AliExpress ones. But here we go. Mashimaru again, about 400. So you could get them somewhere in the middle. Maybe not as cheap as like 320, but closer to 400, but definitely not 1,000, right? And I think these magnetic paddle shifters will experience the same thing as the M3 or F80 GTS taillights. Car snob. Florida is lawless. Oh, okay. So you're in Florida. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, sometimes it's like, it's best to just let people do what they do, as long as people are safe and responsible. I would say like it's fine. I mean, as far as like the environment, and of course we want to be respectful and take care of the environment. I'm more on the fence of like the people that say like, oh, the world is ending because of whatever climate crisis they want to claim, because most of the people who say those type of things end up buying waterfront property. So if the world was ending, if the world is going to flood, you as the expert, why are you buying waterfront property? Why are you traveling across the world in a jet that pollutes so much emissions versus us who are just driving our cars? Right? And then to an extent too, like electric cars, the electricity that goes into them, how we produce electricity, that's not necessarily clean energy either. So, one way or another, the environment is taking a hit. It's just people don't see it. It's indirect when it comes to electric cars, and it's more direct when it comes to regular cars. But if you want to reduce your carbon footprint as much as possible, the best thing in terms of cars is buying a used car. Now, if you want to make the argument for buying a used electric car, sure. But if you're telling somebody that they should buy a brand new electric car versus a used gas-powered car, albeit the gas-powered car works, it's not beaten up or anything, most of the emission damages or environmental damages is done in the manufacturing process. So you buying that brand new electric car, you cause all that irreversible damage, versus buying a car where the damage has already been done and it's still serviceable. So yeah, I wish we could have a little bit more freedom like in Florida. Soul Slinger, yeah, okay, you moved to Jacksonville, Illinois. It's okay, so you're enjoying the freedom too. You guys enjoy the freedom for me, okay? Carslam, BMW jack point video is evergreen. That's why people are always going to be searching it until the end of time. Yeah, it looks like that, and I hope that it does provide people with a safe option to jack the car. I know I didn't have the best camera equipment at the time, and it's just a short, sweet video. But I do hope that it encourages people to use jack stands versus just holding it up on the car. That was like one of the main things that I really wanted to accomplish with that video. Car snob. That's why I need to make search-based and evergreen content like Scotty Kilmer and Chris Bay. Yes, those guys, I swear, it does not matter what they make. Their videos, boom, 100,000, 1 million views, no matter what. Those guys are like the OGs. They can do whatever they want at this point. I think Scotty, like, he does a lot of, like, he just sits behind his computer and he talks about stuff, and he has stuff like overlays. He's so entertaining, though. He's so entertaining. Like, just his intro alone, I love it. Soul Slinger, I had an 87 325 ES when I lived in Florida. I could set off car alarms when I started. Okay, so you're that guy then. Sometimes car alarms are a little bit too sensitive, though. But I think that's more or less it's the glass sensor that's going on. Because I know that if you get an alarm installed, like an aftermarket alarm, you could do a test to see how sensitive it is. You just take your keys and just kind of kind of clang them against the window, and the alarm will usually go off. So that's probably what your exhaust is doing to those cars. Car Snob. It seems silly to make evergreen content because you don't realize how good it can do, even though it's saturated. Yes, it really depends on what it is. I would still say make it. Make it so that you can reference it later. Make it so that you have the footage for future content. Like maybe even if it doesn't populate well, like if you did the exact same one, like jack points, you could reuse that footage in like tire rotation videos and coilover videos so that you don't have to refilm it again. And if anybody asks you where the jack points are, then you link them to your video, not to someone else's. I would still say do it. At the worst case scenario, do it from a different angle. So one of the things that I think did really well for me was the oil thermostat from Mosselman. I watched Brian's video countless amount of times just to see like what angle did he do it at, what angle did he not get, and how could I supplement his video. So I went in saying my video is not necessarily going to be better than his, but my video is going to supplement the angles that he didn't get. And because he did it in a vlog style, it was upwards of 30 minutes, I believe. But because I just filmed mine straight through voiceover, mine was under 20. And so I would say do it. I would encourage you to do it. Anybody who's looking to make content in terms of cars, even if they feel like it's saturated, do it. Maybe somebody doesn't have the exact same chassis as you, the exact same model as you. You can do it. When I first started doing this, I used to think nobody's going to watch me because BMW is so popular. But then I realized nobody's making M235i videos. And then I started realizing nobody's really making 2 Series videos. People might touch on the M2, but if you're looking at it from a perspective of YouTube views and view duration and possibility of monetization, what car sold the most? The M2 or the M235i, the M240i, the 230, the 228? The base Model 2 series in its entirety sold more than the M2. Not only that, the people who bought the M2 probably aren't looking up DIY videos. They're probably taking it to a shop. But who is going to watch the DIY videos? Who is going to buy your parts that are linked in the description? It's going to be people who have the base model cars. It's not to say that the M car community won't buy. They're just less likely because that's not the route that they would go. So I definitely encourage you. Out of curiosity, I've been wondering if I should do this. I've dabbled in some videos before to not great success. Should maybe our next live stream be a little bit maybe about content creation, about how you can still kind of push through in a saturated area? I'm by no means like a YouTube expert, but I think I just know enough to share with people who are just getting started and trying to break through in the BMW community or car niche as well. And it opens you up to do other things like tools as well, which reminds me really quick, we'll get back to the Q&A, but one thing that I did want to bring up is that Tekton, the tool company that I partner with a lot, they are actually going to increase their prices very soon. I think next month. So if you look at some other tools, so like socket sets, you can see like right here, like there's going to be a price increase by like about $4. Now it's not like life-changing or anything like that, but of course, if you're trying to save as much money as possible, you will want to, you know, if you had the money available, you just haven't been sure, I would say, you know, consider getting them now while you can. And this is like inflation hitting us in real time. I would say for the most part, you don't really need a 1/4 inch set, but what you do need is, if you're just getting started, this thing right here has everything. In the F chassis, you really only need to go up to 24. And because you have short and shallow, you have 2 of everything. If you plan to do aftermarket upgrades, you have the standard sizing here. in order to get you through, you have a breaker bar, a ratchet, a few extensions, a universal joint. This has almost everything as far as 6-point that you'll encounter on your BMW. And if you can get it at 170 versus 180, do it. And this is what I would also recommend as far as, content creation. This is just a small little tangent we went on. But if you're doing car content, once you build up your tool collection, you can start doing things for tool manufacturers because you're experienced with the tool, you know how well it works, you know what doesn't work. You're going to be able to give advice, and you're going to be somebody in the community that people look to for that advice. So just consider that if you plan to do car content, how can you parlay this to something else? It's going to be hard just looking at the landscape of things, unless you're a Chris Fix or a Scotty Kilmer, to do something like this is how you grow on YouTube. Like, it'd be hard because our numbers don't back it up, because our numbers are mostly directly correlated to the people who bought the car and who are willing to work on the car. So it's not like somebody who just does like camera reviews, because people could buy cameras for a bunch of reasons, or how to grow on like YouTube growth strategy coaches. Those are the people that you're really going to be competing against. And when you look at the credibility of them versus you just on the numbers alone, it's going to be hard for us to compete. But for somebody who works on cars, if you build up a good enough base, then guess what? Because you built up a good enough base, people know that you're a good worker. You're a reliable source on what tools to get, what tools are worth the money. So I would say look into that. That's definitely a viable option. Let's see here. Everyone should create content about their products, their cars, whatever, educate, entertain anyone. Yes, I totally agree. If you can, make a YouTube video, that's great. If you want to just do like Instagram Reels, TikToks, whatever, I think more of us in the car community could do more to help each other out. Just because of the reach of social media. I know that it's hard to go through things, and like you see a bunch of ads, people just trying to sell you things. But if you see like a DIY, like a full on, it's just at the forefront of my mind because I just made it. But if you see somebody who made an oil change video and they link the oil that they use in the filter, like, yeah, like maybe if you're in the market, yeah, go ahead and pick up those things if that's what you really need. And yeah, they'll get a small kickback, but they just showed you how to do an oil change for free. So it's also some people saying like, oh, I don't want to make content because I don't want to be all salesy and things like that. You just provided free content. You just provided value to somebody's life. You should get something in return, whether it be in the form of ad revenue from somebody watching your video or an affiliate link, which is not going to cost the other person more. So it's an exchange of information. It's an exchange of goods. And the more we think of like, I'm trying to take something or like be really salesy, you're not. You're providing value and you're making it convenient, because guess what? By you linking the products in the description, you didn't make them go shop for it. If they know that they need 540 weight oil and you have the link to it, as well as the oil filter, you're saving them time. So you're saving them time. You're providing knowledge. And so you should expect something back. I think that it's only fair. Now, it's not to say like, oh, buy this, or if you don't buy it, like you're ungrateful. It's just, know your worth. And I think a lot of people in the car community kind of lack that confidence. And I wish that I could share that with them is, you did good work. There should be something for you. Nice. So, okay, I think you're talking about Soul Slinger here. Car Snob, I will get a daily drifter to drift here at OSW eventually, and maybe a racing go-kart. Hey man, you have a fun little lineup there. I combined and recorded a how-to restoring my headlights, but did it long vlog style instead of super short, and just the process. Some people like the vlogs. Some people like the authenticity of it. I know that some people feel like my videos are over edited, a little bit too cinematic. They're not real. They're not raw. Some people could say that, I doctored some of the footage. So You know, whatever style that you feel is appropriate, whatever style that you feel is best for you to record, go ahead and do it, because somebody is going to prefer that style versus something that like I do. But again, somebody who's doing a DIY, they're going to want to watch several different videos to get different angles. So there's nothing wrong with what you do or how you do it. I would just say, if you know that that video is very saturated, try attacking it from a different camera angle. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing, man. And you are glad that you're in Orlando. You love Florida coats, but it's probably going to be underwater in a few decades. We'll see. I mean, to me, if it goes underwater by the time I'm underground, it doesn't really matter. You know, we can't live our lives as hermits so that the next generation has a chance, right? You know, I think humans are very good at adapting. We can do things like create the correct infrastructure to survive. You know, we're sending people out into space. That's another option potentially. But, you know, if we're sacrificing ourselves, like the world, like the Earth has a timeline too. Like eventually the sun, that star is going to implode on itself. And then what? Then we don't have heat. So I would say responsibly enjoy yourself in the meantime. Oh, coasts, not coats. Well, I mean, I saw some of that Florida weather that you guys had. I mean, it could have been coats too. I would not keep property that long by the coast. Yeah, you could keep it, and then once the property value shoots up because of inflation, you can sell it and make a pretty penny. Caleb Mange. Agreed. Okay, I'm not sure which point this one came in, but I'm glad that you agreed with one of the points that we covered today. Karslan. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make super short and to the point content eventually on this channel, maybe, and make a channel with my name for the longer car vlog videos. Yeah, whatever you feel. I'll say you could do both on your current channel right now and then see what works, and then lean really hard into that. And then if you feel that your audience wants something different or isn't vibing with the other type, then yeah, do a second channel. Soulslinger, if you Soulslinger said, I want to make videos, but I'm not sure what editor to use. If you have a MacBook, iMovie is good. It's free to get started. DaVinci Resolve is what I used for a little bit of time. That's also free, but it's also limited. So if you can get through those, then I would say upgrade to a paid version. If you have a Mac, Final Cut is probably the best as far as like being able to render out videos and make them and all those things. A lot of people like Premiere, but Premiere is a subscription. If you plan to make videos for a long time, you buy Final Cut one time, and if you use it for 3 years, you're getting your return of investment already. Okay, Carsnob is suggesting Filmora 12 for a video editor. And then Carsnob is saying a whole drama thing happened. Daniel Batak, I actually don't know who this is, did vids about it, and they threatened him, but went back on their shady policy. I'm not sure what that's referencing. Let's see if I can remember. Maybe, is this about the content creation thing? I forget. I'm sorry. I don't see when these actually come in, and I kind of, since we talked about a few things, I'm not sure with this one. So if you can just refresh my memory, you can just put Daniel Batak and then what we were talking about, and I will circle back to it. And then you don't care. You paid $80 for Filmora. That's pretty good, because I paid $300 for Final Cut on sale, and they charged me like an extra 30 something. Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Filmora, this issue. Okay, I'm not sure if it's the exact same creator, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so Filmora, they did like a thing where you buy their software, it's lifetime, and you get to use it for as long as you want, whatever you want. And then they kind of went back on their word. They said like, oh, you have to upgrade. And then when you did the upgrade, you had to start paying again. Yeah. So that one was a little finicky. I think they're offering free refunds right now, right? Or at least for a limited time. Okay. And then you were using Wondershare before, and yeah, DaVinci. My friend, who I film with at SV Bimmer, he uses DaVinci, I believe. And then I have another friend who uses Adobe Premiere. So it really depends on your preferences. But yeah, all the editors are good. Just once you get, I would say don't try to experiment with too many, because familiarity is going to help you out with your workspace. So if you get used to, if you try one for a few months, you don't like it, then try another one for a few months and then go that route. Okay. Car Snob, you sign up for Amazon's affiliate program. You should. Yes. I think everybody who's making content for cars should sign up for Amazon's affiliate program. You're providing free content to somebody. You're saving them time because they get the exact product. It's like you see what you get type of thing. If they have the exact same car and model, they're going to want that exact same part. So I'm happy that you did that. I've known about affiliate marketing since like 12 years old, but never knew how I was going to market. Fast forward to 23, I started marketing YouTube Shorts content for free for the love of editing and posting them. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm happy that you find, now that you knew about it since all the way back then, that you're able to scale it now. And since YouTube is going to start paying out or have better payouts for shorts, you're going to boom. You will boom starting next month, February. Oh, here we go. Look at you. See, look. You've amassed over 6,500 on Snap subs, over 600 on YouTube, and you never needed to market. Exactly. If you love the product, you'll make a video on it. You'll recommend it. If you don't love something, then you're also going to recommend to not get that thing, and you won't link anything. So whether you like the product or not, share your experience at the very least. And then if you do like it, provide the product. And this is what I would love to see, because most of us car people, just like what you're saying here, just do what you love. You're just doing what you love and review, provide affiliate links to products. I already get and earn commission from Amazon, and I have a list of like 13 other websites, all car parts. Yes. So I'm happy that you see your value. And if you meet anybody, as I mentioned before, who says, I want to make car content, but it's not a sustainable living, I don't want to make it seem like I'm salesy. You're not, you're sharing. Imagine if you had the best food of your life from the best restaurant in the world, or that you think is the best restaurant in the world. And your friend said, oh, where was that place that you ate? You said, oh, I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to seem salesy. Your friend is going to be so upset with you. No, they want to go eat at the restaurant. They want to have that experience that you had. They want to enjoy it with you. So there's no harm in sharing it. And if the restaurant gives you a kickback for sharing their place of business, that's a win-win. Do you think that your friend, who is not going to end up paying more to go to the restaurant, knows that you get a kickback, is really going to care? If they're really your friend, they won't care. And you're saying that you watch auto therapy video about however much he made from YouTube income. Not bad, over 2,000 in AdSense revenue, but he made more than double in affiliate commissions from one BMW website. Okay, and I'll check it out. I will. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So anybody who's looking into making car content, screenshot this and check it out. Yes, most of the actually, mine's is a little bit different. I actually make a little bit more on YouTube ads versus affiliate commissions. I actually don't make that much in affiliate commissions in a month, but maybe I haven't scaled it enough yet. I'm not as good as you guys yet. Daniel Battelle. Okay, so if you guys want, look up Filmora, Daniel Battelle, and you guys can figure out if that's a software that you want to get for yourselves. Wondershare, Filmora, they updated it to version 12 and changed everyone again, even though they were supposed to be lifetime memberships. Yep, so this is the one that I was talking about. So when you're getting a software that's not like downloadable into your computer, things like this can happen. They can always change the terms of service, and they can always go back on their word. Hopefully not. Like Adobe is straight up, it's a monthly membership. You pay to use it. Companies like this that say lifetime, and then when things like right now are happening with the economy, they're going to go back on their word. They're going to take the hit because there's money to be made. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Hopefully companies learn from this and stop doing things like that, though. Okay, Carsnob. DaVinci Resolve is like 300, same as Final Cut. And you don't trust Wondershare. Right. I love how Filmora is easier on the eyes and has Giphy memes. But you don't need memes now. Yeah. I would say just pay for the ease of use. The extras are whatever. If you see yourself doing this for a long time, then 300 and on the initial, just bite the bullet and be happy that you never have to pay for anything again. Oh, yep, here we go. So you're on the same newsfeed as I am. I forgot Shorts monetization starts next month. I stopped posting them, but still get like 500 short views a day on average consistently. Yes. Also check in the YouTube studio. Make sure you sign the new user agreement so that you can start getting paid out for it. Because unless you sign it, you're not going to get the pay bump. Oh, you're not monetized yet. Well, I think it's a combination. You could do that. You could do the Shorts monetization route, or you could just go the conventional 1,000 and 4,000 watch hours, 1,000 subs. I think that's easier, honestly. And going for monetization through videos eventually. Yep, public watch hours. That's going to be the best. I'm going to be providing entertaining and educational long form videos now instead of just shorts of cars. Yes, I mean there's no harm in doing both. Once you get monetized, no matter how you get there, do both. I think monetization is going to be good to get you to that 1,000 mark. And then once you're there, really start trying to hammer in the public watch hour time. Soulslinger. I'm a master mechanic and wiring technician. Been doing auto and marine work for 26 years now. Currently, I work as a mechanical engineer technician. I have a lot to share, but little time. Okay, man. Well, you know, man, maybe one day when you retire, you can. This is just a bonus. This is all just a bonus for us. I think somebody like you could make great content. If you look at like Mr. Subaru, like his stuff is like very short, straight to the point. His short content, not necessarily his long form content. But I think based off of your experience, your knowledge, I'd say like a wealth of knowledge without much experience, you should do something like that. And I think that everybody would benefit from it. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Carsnob says so too. He says that you could go viral easily. Wow, this is a pretty good session. So maybe I'll do a poll or something. But if you guys want, just let me know in the comment section. I think I have to run in just a little bit. But if you guys want, we can talk a little bit more about, you know, like content creation for next week. That could be our topic for next week. If you guys would like that, I could definitely do that. I feel like I'm okay to make it. I'm not like the best. I mean, but I hit like 10K on both of these two other platforms. And then, you know, YouTube is the primary. So maybe there's something that I could share that would be of value to somebody who's just starting out. But yeah, let me know if that's something that you want for next week. And Soulslinger, you said that you're never going to retire. Well, maybe you'll retire from maybe just your job. If I can convince you to retire just from your job, and then you can, you know, once you have enough income to hold you off, then you could jump over to the dark side of content creation. I would love to see what you have in store for us. So with that, we'll wrap up for today's Q&A. Thank you everybody who is attending. And if you want for us to kind of pivot a little bit, I'll try to make it more car related, but in terms of content creation. And so we got a couple more comments in here. Soulslinger, you'll put more effort into it. I just finished an engine swap, so I can change my focus to making a video. Hey man, you could always talk about it too. Talk about the road bumps involved. Retire from working for someone else. Yes. Okay. And yes, I think the big main takeaway here is doing something that we love, we enjoy, and then trying to better the world for it in our own way, but also seeing our own worth. So, with that, I hope that's a good message to send off with for today. Hope all of you enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you guys next week. I think I'll probably post one short this week, and the anti-gravity battery in its full detail with coding will be out on Sunday. And so I will see all of you then. Have a good one.